Pat Forde from Yahoo Sports, National College columnist, joining us. What do you make of what Urban put out late Friday afternoon?
I thought it was pretty brazen, Dan. I really did. You know, it was. I dubbed that "Protect Urban Friday" because his statement, and then seemingly very much coordinated with Zach Smith doing multiple interviews and saying that Urban would never have tolerated him if he had hit Courtney Smith. To me, for a guy that is on paid administrative leave, that his actions are under investigation, to come out with this statement, which was extremely self-centered. It was all about Urban. I thought that it was pretty remarkable, and it also basically subtly shifted blame, like any, I guess, $7 million middle management employee would do, to his superiors.
Part of
not blame necessarily, but responsibility.
Part of Pat's column, he wrote, if you missed the column over the weekend, seemingly on thin ice, Urban Meyer skated out to the middle of the pond Friday and declared that he can walk on water. Your move, Ohio State. What is Ohio State's next move?
Well, they've commissioned this panel to look into it, and it's a pretty high-powered commission. The woman leading it has dealt with some very high-profile, contentious, public sports-related disputes, whether it's Jerry Richardson in Carolina, Ezekiel Elliott in Dallas. So I don't think that that they've exactly appointed a rubber stamp sort of committee or a bunch of people who will be easily cowed by the profile of this thing. So we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, the one other person we haven't heard anything from is Gene Smith, the athletic director, and maybe because he's doing what I thought Urban would and should do, which is just be quiet and let this thing play out. But a lot of questions, obviously, for Gene Smith, the athletic director, as well.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I thought this would go quiet. It would go silent, and Urban wouldn't say anything, and it would sort of like, let's let other people move on to other things, and then we can circle the wagons here and trying to figure this out. But it felt like Urban was saying, I did everything I was supposed to do, except for lying in the press conference where I was ill-prepared. And now I remember. Now, hey, basically check with the other higher-ups at Ohio State.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was pretty remarkable to me. Is like, oh, yeah, and I apologize because I wasn't quite ready for those questions about the position coach we just fired, even though any intelligent coach, and Urban Meyer is surely an intelligent coach, would figure those questions would be coming at media day. So I'm not quite buying the I wasn't prepared line from him on that. It was, again, the whole thing very surprising to me. And if I were, in Ohio State's administration, I'd be sitting there saying, Urban, what the heck are you doing here? Yeah. I mean, you just kind of drawn a line and made this a much more kind of contentious out front situation.
I don't know if it was one of those, let me have a legal backdrop here, or at least a legal guardian angel. Just in case I get fired, I'm letting you know I'm going to get my money here. Do you think that factored in at all with this statement that he put out on Friday?
I mean, it does kind of seem like it. That he made it clear publicly, wanted to, that he went through proper protocol and procedures, whatever that may be. He didn't explain it, but that's what he said he did. So that, was basically hey, I did my job, and if you want to fire me, you're going to owe me $38 million here because you're not going to fire me for cause. Whether that was the sole reasoning here, I don't know, but I think it could certainly dovetail with any other need that he felt to quote unquote, clear his name.
Knowing what you know, does he survive this?
Boy, I don't feel like I know enough to say, but my guess, Dan, is there's a gut feel is yes, he does. I think that, again, there's so many questions we still don't have answers to. Why did they keep him for 3 years, Zach Smith, on staff after this? Was it solely Urban's idea? Was Gene Smith involved in that decision? Was anybody else involved? With that information, I'd have a better sense, I guess, of where I think this panel could go with it. But just my gut feel, which isn't based on more than gut, is that, yes, he's still going to be the coach at Ohio State. Now, Is there some disciplinary action? There could be, but I have a feeling he will still be coaching Ohio State.
How do you prove that you sent this up the corporate ladder here at Ohio State and you gave them all the information? You did everything you were supposed to do. If there are no emails or no text messages, how do you prove that or disprove that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very good question. Other than obviously, if Zach Smith says, and if Zach Smith is trustworthy, I don't know how trustworthy he was. I thought he did a pretty terrible job in his interviews, but I would imagine he didn't lie about being called off the road recruiting and sitting down with Gene Smith. Now, whether that's because Urban facilitated and said, hey, this is going on, Gene, you need to know, or not, that at least – so with the fact that there was that meeting, I think somewhat takes the onus off of Urban and says, okay, my boss was involved in this. But, again, there's a whole bunch more documentation and other things I would love for there to be available to figure this thing out.
I'm just surprised he kept. How good is Zach Smith? I know that there's this allegiance to Earl Bruce, but why are you keeping him on your staff?
That's a huge question in all this. I think there's one of three explanations, or maybe some combination of the three. Is A, yes, if there's just this absolute staunch loyalty to Earl Bruce that you're willing to put up with repeat headaches at Florida and at Ohio State. At the very least, they're headaches. At worst, they're far worse than that. You're putting up with domestic assault. Two, there was the text message that Brett McMurphy reported about Zach Smith saying he could take down Ohio State, and whether that's empty threats or not, I don't know. And then three, the other thing here that I kind of wonder whether it's in play was Urban Meyer kind of swallowing his own mythology here and believing, I'm Urban Meyer. We don't make mistakes. We don't do the wrong thing. And if there's some of that shades of the Paterno era of our program is so pristine and so perfect that we don't have mistakes, and so we're just not going to acknowledge that there might have been a mistake here.
Anything else going on in college football, Pat?
Not a lot. I mean, this is completely taken over August so far. I mean, the one of the preseason top 25s came out, and I don't think anybody even noticed because everybody's waiting to see whether Urban Meyer's still going to be the coach of a top 5 team.
Are they a top 5 if he loses his job?
No. I mean, we're talking about, as I said, one of the most accomplished coaches and a very powerful figure. I don't think you throw this over to Ryan Day and say, okay, go win the Big Ten, especially when I think it's going to be a pretty darn competitive Big Ten this year. They're probably still the most talented team in the Big Ten, but I can't see them winning it, being a top 5 team without Urban Meyer.
Good stuff, Pat. Thank you. We appreciate your time.
All right, Dan. Thank you. Good to talk again.
Pat Forde, Yahoo Sports National College columnist.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.